let's talk about how to save our files and prep our images and prep our work so that it will be easy to find later, or it'll be easy to just send to a printer later. There's lots of different scenarios that you may want to take into account, but let's talk about just saving it first as an AI file, just as a project that we want to keep open. Now you'll see that my workspace, my desktop, I can keep anything I want out there because I'm not going to have to worry about it. That's not my printable area. Only on my canvas, my artboard here will. And so I have a couple of them because I want to show you some differences between saving the images and also saving with multiple artboards. So you can look in here, and I have all my some other image assets that I've created that I weren't able to use, and color palette, but I also have linked images. I also have fonts in here. Now, if I was sending this to someone else, you may have to, there's some things that we'll talk about and making sure things are linked together. But right now, I have all my images and my fonts in here, and it's on my computer. I just want to open this up later to continue working on it. So let's just save it as a standard AI file. So go down to File, Save As. We'll call it Test Save 1. And we'll save it here, and you can choose where you want to save it. I want to put it on the desktop as an Illustrator file. I hit Save. Now it gives me options. I'm in version Illustrator CC, so for me, obviously I'm already using it, so it won't matter. I want to keep it at that. But if I was going to be sending it to someone else who was using a different version of Illustrator, you can go ahead and save it to these legacy formats, these older versions down here. You just click on there, and it will save it. Save it for you. So that's pretty helpful to know, because a lot of times you won't be able to open up your file if it's in an older version and you're using a newer. You can also have it, it'll create the PDF file for you, it'll include linked files. But you also have an option here is save each artboard to a separate file. So that's if I want these to be separate AI files on the next time I open it. Or do I want to keep them in the same, I want to see both at the same time for now. So if I was to do, if I just was to save it right now, let's go ahead and just save it. I didn't do multiple artboards, they're all just going to be on the same thing. So if I go, I'm going to click out of here, look over here, and there's my file. And then I can see that there's 2 artboards in there. And it doesn't show you any of your other stuff because that stuff's not printable. If you were just to print it straight from here, this is all that would print. So that's pretty handy. So all that stuff, all that extra junk that was laying around in my AI file is only for me to see. And if I open up that file, this is what it'll look like. But if I was going to send this to somebody else, you need to make sure that things are linked, because they're not, right now my image, if I go on the desktop, there's that canoe image right there, and I have it on the desktop. That's where I have it linked, and I drug it from the desktop into here. But if I was to send it to someone else, it would be just like me having this in the garbage can, because they don't have this file. It's not going to save that file, and it's going to tell you there's missing or modified links, and so people aren't going to know if they open up the file, they won't see this image. Maybe you want them to have everything on here. Maybe there's an image in the artwork that you want them to keep. So make sure it's, there's a way to do that, I'm going to show you how to package things, but if you're not going to package it and you don't want to have to deal with having all these extra links and things, you want to embed your image. So over here on the right, you'll see this little links panel. You click on it, and I can go in here in the top right, I can click embed my image. And then no longer, even if I threw this out on the desktop, if I look over here, it's still here. This is now part of my AI file. So I don't need to worry about that. So that's if you want to, I would keep that embedded, and then if I want to send that to them, that way they'll have it. It'll increase your file size a little bit, but at least they'll have the image. And then for fonts, if they don't have the font when you send it to them, it won't show up, and they won't be able to see it. So and this will just do a default like myriad typeface. So if you need these fonts to be in there, what you can do is also go to type, and you want to outline the font. So it goes type, go down to create outlines, and now you can see these are just shapes. They're no longer using the font. It's just a shape, and I can actually go in and alter, if I wanted to, I can alter these different shapes however I'd want, because it's no longer a typeface. And then you don't have to worry about linking, giving them the same typeface if they don't need to manipulate it. But and so you can save that. So that's just a way to make sure that your images are embedded and make sure your text is outlined. But what if you're sending it to someone and they need to be able to play around with the type? Maybe they would need to be able to adjust the words or edit it in some way later on. You're going to want to save it all together by packaging it. So that would be, you go to File and you go down to Package. Now we'll go ahead and make sure your document, it's asking you to make sure your document is saved. So now it's saved, test save 1, and we're gonna save it to the desktop, is what it says here on the location, and you can look at that over here. You give your name a folder, and what it does here, it shows you it's copying the links into a separate folder, it's relinking them to the file document, and it's copying the fonts used. So whatever font that you're using, it's gonna send them a package, we'll see, and it's gonna give you a bunch of whatever mumbo jumbo about licensing and stuff. But it says there's missing fonts in the link. If you have issues like that, go back and make sure you have all your, right now I'm having a little bit issues with this this typeface, but basically what it'll do is it'll create this folder that you can open up, and it has your fonts, shows what fonts are used, and they can actually download those onto their computer. And then you have your actual AI file, but it has the images linked in there as well. So links, images, or your images, your fonts, everything will be packaged into one thing, so you can send it over to someone, and you won't have to make it so that they, because if you outline these, they can't switch it back to type or the font, so they can't edit it. But yeah, so make sure, and again, I guess I should say this too, when you're packaging things, you don't, obviously make sure that when you send it over to them, they have full intentions of purchasing the font, if they're going to be using that typeface. And that's what the little box that popped up, I said licensing, that was all making sure that you are not just stealing typefaces or just sending them and then not updating them yourself. So, but yeah, so there you go. So that's basic AI saving. Now, there are other options that we saw. If you go Save As, you don't always have to save it as an Illustrator file. You can save it as an EPS file. EPS stands for Encapsulated Postscript. So basically, this preserves any of the graphic elements from AI, and you can open this in I mean, almost any page layout or graphic application type stuff, or word processing. So most anything, you can open this thing, you can open the file up, even if it's not even if they're not using Illustrator to do it, to look at it. So that's kind of the benefit of EPS files. You get a lot of times you'll get logos. You'll save a logo as an EPS file if it's just a really simple vector work, because then people can open it up in word processing. They can open it up in any other program, not just Illustrator, because a lot of times my clients won't have that. So when I send them the logo, they'll need it as an EPS file. There's also your Adobe PDF. Now, this is great for being able to open it up in other Adobe software as well. But let's say I want to save it as a PDF. It's going to ask me now if I want to do a range, if I only want to print, or if I only want to do a PDF of the first or the second artboard, or if I want to do both of them. So this is saying both artboards, which is great. We'll do it on the desktop, and we'll click Save. And it's going to give you options here. So this is where your bleed settings and everything like that take into account. So usually I'll save a PDF for print, or if I'm saving a presentation. Sorry, I won't keep moving this around. But if you're looking in the background, you'll see that I have the bleed settings and I have my image drawn all the way out there. So this is kind of giving you a breakdown of what you can do. There's a whole lot more that you can go into, but I'm going to save it. You can save it as a high quality print. Typically for print, all you need is the high quality, or you could even do press quality. smallest file sizes if you're saving it for like web, or web, or you just don't, if it's a PDF just to show you're trying to save a lot of space and you don't want to send them a giant file if it's just like a mood board or something like that. It'll be a little bit how do you say it? A little bit pixelated or whatever, but it won't be bad. So if you're going to do something for print, you're going to want to put it in the high quality print. And then you'll want to go over here in marks and bleeds. Since you do have a bleed on yours, go to marks and bleeds, and then you can you can choose. It says down here, it says use document bleed settings. If you didn't have it already, you can let you set it. But since you were prepared and had it ready, all you have to do is click on that use document bleed settings, and it will save that. If you want to help them by giving them trim marks, some printers don't want trim marks. What that does is it'll add like these little lines right here. I'll just click on it so you can see it. And there's other things that you may or may not want. But let's just say I want the trim marks, and now I'm going to save my PDF. Now open it up. You can choose to have it open straight away. So now you can see the trim marks are here, and the printer will just cut those right off, everything off on this side. And then you'll see how this part was where your bleed was. And so it's going to be cutting all this off. But yeah, so there now you have it as and if you double click, you can see that you have this as two different artboards saved. So you have both those images saved for you. Now, saving your PDFs is I love using PDFs for presentations too. You can use those and just view those. If I want to save multiple artboards, I can use that to do like a slideshow as well. So that's kind of the benefit of having Illustrator and all the artboards. You can save those. You can even save them individually if you wanted. But you also have option of saving as a SVG, or these two options with SVG. That's basically that's just a vector format for that makes high quality interactive web graphics. So they help reduce the file sizes for web, and the one thing you can't do with those is you can't save multiple artboards. You can only save the one. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you kind of a good overview of how to save your work. I think one last thing I want to say is if you'll see this on like EPS files, it'll say use artboards. Just click yes, because if you don't, it's going to take that out and it's just going to be this huge like nothingness, and your artboard usually is what the size of your image is. It won't be there when you save it. So I like to click yes, and then it says which ones do you want. Basically, since I have these two posters, if I didn't have use artboards, these would just be two floating images and they would be saved together. I'd like to see them saved on their own canvases. So I'd say use artboards, and then I can choose if I want one or two of them. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much. And if there's any other more technical, if you're going to be saving it for more specific applications, especially like web type things, there is another course that does just that. So I wanted to give you kind of the overall rounded off view of Adobe Illustrator's saving capabilities. So I hope that helps, and thank you.